What's up gamers? Today we'll be going over the basics of tank champions. Tanks play an important part in League and fill a big role on any team. Tanks are normally the one to dictate engagements and fights while also providing a ton of crowd control and team fighting power. Understanding the basics of tanks is extremely important and you should have at least one tank champ in your champ pool unless you are playing ADC, so let's get into it. To warm up, you should pick a tank champion and go into the practice tool. Here you want to play down some dummies and practice your abilities and combos. As a tank, a lot of your abilities are extremely important and most of the time you provide a lot of utility and crowd control for your team. Some examples of tanks are Ornn, Zac, and Leona. No matter what lane you are playing in, your job as a tank is to engage into the fight and provide crowd control and utility for your team. Look to play it safe in the early game and focus on farming and getting XP so you can become tanky for the late game. During the mid and late game team fights, it is extremely important to know where all of your teammates and enemies are so that you can properly judge any given situation and react to anything that you need to react to. Remember, winning lane in your jungle matchup is not that important, you just want to be able to limit mistakes and deaths. Some tanks do have really strong laning power or gank ability early in the game, so if you're in a matchup where you can take advantage of your opponent, you should try and do so. As a tank, it is your job to be able to soak damage and start fights for your team. Most of the time in solo queue, your team will look for you to engage to start a fight. Because of this, you want to make sure you are constantly checking your minimap to keep account of where the enemy team is and where your team is. If you think you see a good opportunity to take a fight, you should look to start it when your team is around you and ready to follow you. Now go into a game and practice engaging into team fights with your team. You want to make sure you're using your big cooldowns, normally your ult, on important targets. Remember, as a tank, it is not your job to do the damage. Your job is to make enough space for your team and keep them alive long enough for them to follow up on your engagement. Playing tanks in a messy teamfight can get a bit confusing, so just remember that the most important thing is to try and keep your teammates alive. Remember, the main thing you want to focus on is team fighting. In these fights, it is your job, most of the time, to start the fight, but that is not your only job. Once the fight is started, it also becomes your job to take care of your squishy teammates. Keep track of where your strong teammates are and do your best to keep them alive and as safe as possible, as they are the ones that are going to be outputting the damage that will win you the fight. The longer you're able to protect your carries, the higher the chance you will have at winning the team fight. After the fight is started, you essentially become one big babysitter. Look after your carries and use your abilities effectively and any fight can become winnable. Again, I'm Coach Brandon, and always remember to stay hungry and stay humble, and I'll see you all soon.